While it's a very small subgenre that goes unnoticed by many, the military moe genre is secretly one of the best in anime, at least when it's done right. Let's take a look at what makes a military moe property and what it needs to be successful. From someone who's not just a huge fan of the genre, but is also writing his own military moe manga. This week's video is brought to you by my upcoming original manga, Amaranth Angels. Following a sudden tragedy, Sai Nishizawa wanted nothing more than to leave starfighter piloting behind and move on. But fate had other ideas. And she and friends, both new and old, soon find themselves thrust into a danger-filled, galaxy-spanning adventure they were not at all prepared for. Cute anime girls, starfighters, and exciting space battles in a fun space adventure. The first full volume will be out later this year, and they now have a pre-order store live for anyone who missed the Kickstarter campaign. Now, on to the video. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, or even just glance at my recent video uploads, you'll know that Girls and Panzer is my favorite anime. And, looking at the anime I've talked about beyond Girls and Panzer on this channel, you'll see a common theme with most of them. That being them being a part of the cute girls doing military things subgenre, also known as military moe. So today we'll be talking a little bit about the genre, and while there are two different types of military moe stories, one where the cute girls are operating the military or military-ish equipment, and the other where they are said military equipment, the essentials of the genre remain the same in both types. So I think it's safe to say, at this point, that military moe is officially my favorite anime genre. So after giving it some thought, I felt it was worth taking the time to put into a concise form precisely why that is, what the military moe genre brings to the table that makes it work so well, and what the genre needs to achieve more success and become more than a tiny niche. Obviously, the two aspects that are the source of the subgenre's appeal are right there in the name. People like cute anime girls, and people like fun, exciting military-ish action. However, this of course isn't the only genre where you could find these two things, at least on their own. Pure moe anime exists, like slice of life stuff, and other moe subgenres, as does more straight military anime that's roughly analogous to live-action military fiction. But what makes military moe work, and what makes it special, is the marriage of these two things, which, at least at first glance, seem contradictory. You got your cute anime girls into my military equipment, but you got my military stuff into my cute girls doing cute things show. The inherent contrast is actually a huge part of why it works, as the combination of these contradictory aspects can, in a way, cover for some of the shortfalls each type of story could run into on its own. Cute girls doing cute things stories can of course be very wholesome and fun, but it's also too easy for there to not be much else to it. Too much cute could also get a little tiresome, repetitive, and saccharine after all, especially if the story lacks some noteworthy driving force to keep us invested in anything beyond the character interactions. There are also lots of cute girls doing cute things shows out there, to the point where it can be very challenging for something to stand out. But mixing cute girls with something less conventional, like tanks, warplanes, or something else martial in nature, makes a bit more of an impact. On the other side of things, military fiction's potential pitfalls are quite different, as there's almost always a clear driving force, stakes, and tension there. But it's very easy for the characters to wind up being extremely bland, one-note, and unlikable. Also, because these stories lean so much on the military aspects, the action, danger, etc., it's very easy to go action overload, which can also become too much for viewers and fail to sustain momentum, keep up the tension throughout. Military fiction also has a rare problem among genres of fiction in that it has to compete with reality. At least military fiction meant to be quote-unquote realistic, or set in a real-world conflict. What do I mean? We'll look at historical battles and wars. Historical examples of individual heroism. Can fiction outdo the D-Day landings, the Battle of Midway, the Six-Day War, or outdo the real heroism of men like Audie Murphy, Adrian Carton Deweyart, or the sailors of Taffy 3, just to name a few examples? Not really. Certainly not without creating stories that many readers or viewers will find quote-unquote unrealistic, given that reality is stranger than fiction. Personally, if I want an epic military story, I'm more likely to go watch or read either a history book, documentary, or dramatization than seek out a completely fictional, straight military story. Though more obviously fictional stuff, like space military stories, are obviously exceptions here. So what, then, does combining these two story genres do exactly? And how does it elevate itself to address the potential pitfalls of each on their own? To start with the military elements first, military moe removes a lot of the pressure from writing and portraying the story. After all, putting cute anime girls into military scenarios, whether with real danger or not, is at its core inherently unrealistic. Every reader or viewer knows this going in, which sets their expectations. So, military moe that treats the military aspects with respect and with any noteworthy level of historical accuracy or correct details when relevant, not to mention which makes references to real events, elevates it for the viewers. For instance, while Girls and Panzer obviously takes some liberties for entertainment's sake, the tank models themselves, and some other aspects of the depiction of tanks in the show, is actually more accurate than in many straight-up war films, and certainly more than one might expect from an anime. It also has an advantage over live-action military films because it's animated, which allows it to depict a much greater variety of historical tanks. Ditto with the magnificent Kotobuki, which very accurately depicts some of those World War II era aircraft and air combat. Furthermore, the fact that the characters here are cute anime girls gives the story a built-in, organic way to break up the intense action with lighter, fun, cute character and plot stuff. Also, cute female characters aren't too hard to make likable quickly. And there's, of course, an overlap in the predominantly male demographic interested in military stuff, and the male demographic that likes cute anime girls. Though, in shows like these, the cute girls do need to be mature enough to be taken seriously when it comes to the military-esque action. From the moe side of the equation, of course, the addition of military elements gives something for the cute characters to do that drives the story. Whether that's using the military stuff in a sports setting, where we know there's no actual danger, like the Girls and Girls of Panzer, or something where there's a little more actual danger, like in Kotobuki or even High School Fleet. Though the tone of these stories, and military moe as a whole, tends to tell us that we should expect our main characters to be okay. No matter the overall tone of the show, the military aspects always provide exciting action to keep us from getting too overwhelmed with cute. And of course, there's always something inherently aesthetically pleasing, seeing cute anime girls doing traditionally male things like driving tanks. To very briefly sum up what makes the military moe genre work. The contrasting masculine and feminine aspects, military-related equipment and or action, and cute anime girls. But of course, it can't be quite so simple as just having those two elements in the IP. When you get down to it, military moe as a genre has all the tools for success at hand, and a way to really reach a wide audience. But apart from a couple of examples, Girls of Panzer are probably foremost among them, the genre really hasn't reached a particularly noteworthy audience, at least not for story reasons. Because as popular as something like Azur Lane is, even I as a fan know we're all there just to collect waifus, and not really for the story. Though the anime adaptation of that was better than it should have been. So moving on from what makes the genre what it is, we need to take a look at what truly makes it work, the pitfalls that are too common in this small subgenre, and what, in my opinion, is key to a military moe IP finding that audience and succeeding. In essence, it's pretty simple, since it really all comes down to how the anime or manga handles the two things that make a military moe show, and how they balance them. Setting up the right expectations, and then providing what you promise the audience. As I already hinted at, too much moe could lead to something that won't appeal at all to people who are interested in the military aspects and want exciting action that, while not necessarily realistic, since quote-unquote realism in fiction is overrated, but sensible, taking the military elements, whether planes, tanks, ships, starfighters, or whatever, seriously. In the same vein, the tension needs to be maintained. The overall tone of the story remain consistent throughout. This is part of where shows like Strike Witches fails for me, since the threat really isn't treated seriously enough, and the show's military-ish stuff really feels more like a coat of paint. And let's be honest, that show in particular is basically just a magical girl show. But there is plenty of room for military moe stuff with even more at stake, and even more danger, like in Licorice Recoil, and you can go even further than that. Though, since these are part moe anime, you shouldn't go in expecting many on-screen deaths, whether of main characters or even minor characters, as you would see in a more military-heavy show, like the 86 or a Gundam anime. Obviously, this means it can wind up being a pretty fine line to walk, but in a long-running series, you also have the option to shift the balance at times. Like, say, a story starting out a little bit lighter and moe, before things get really real and the danger-filled military aspects take center stage. You can even oscillate back and forth. Licorice Recoil was a perfect example. All its fun, wholesome, cute scenes don't impact the overall tone in a way that kept us from taking the heavier elements of the plot seriously when the time came. And with the characters as they were set up, it felt perfectly natural to have them being all lighthearted, well, some more than others, during downtime as opposed to when things got serious. It showed how well you could do a show centering around cute girls, but which also has very serious danger involved, and heavier plot elements without becoming overly dark and gritty. Not that military-focused stories can't have lighter moments, but they often tend to be few and far between, especially if it's got a darker, grittier tone. It's also worth noting that, as anyone who's served in the military pretty much anywhere can attest, soldiers can be goofy weirdos a lot of the time. Of course, good soldiers know when to turn that off, and when it's time for the action, they go into business mode. Though even then, gallows humor is still a thing, obviously, so joking under fire is more common than one might assume. But even while doing that, they tend to treat the situation with the seriousness it deserves. What this, of course, means is that, when you really think about it, military moe isn't as out there as it might seem. Of course, cute girls, whether high school aged or slightly older as more proper military age would go, will at least most of the time act like cute girls in those long periods of downtime between the action. Good military moe understands this. Military moe that understands this, and which manages to find that proper balance, should successfully appeal to both the audience there for the cute girls first, and to the audience there for the military-ish action first, without there being a need to sacrifice aspects of one element for the other. But the importance of both maintaining that balance, and embracing and taking each of those two elements seriously, for lack of a better term, cannot be understated. In the end, this of course comes down to the writing and internal consistency, but that's a given for anything. Military moe is just a genre with so much potential, with so many fun things you can do with it, capable of having fun, cute characters alongside exciting action, and a range of interesting types of stories it could tell, both extremely simple ones, and those that are a little more complex, while paying proper respect to the military elements, whether the equipment itself, or just a military experience, up to a point, that it's a shame it's as small a genre with fewer quality offerings as it is. And it's part of why I, after realizing there was no cute girls flying starfighters anime, or even manga as far as I know, out there, that I decided to create my own with Amaranth Angels. My story is tonally going to lean a little more toward the military side, at least in terms of the danger and the stakes involved, but there will still be plenty of cute alongside the action-packed space battles. So there'll be a serious military-related story, with some heavier events and themes at times, and obviously with some real-world inspiration, but it's still going to overall be a positive cute girls doing things story. I didn't set out to make this video with the purpose of advertising that, but I'm not going to miss the opportunity to mention that you can read the prologue of Amaranth Angels for free on Webtoons and pre-order the first volume over on Fund My Comic. Links to that are below in the description. It's a product of my love for the genre, to the point where I want to make my own contribution to hopefully convert some new people to the fun that is the military moe genre. What military moe anime is your favorite, and why is it Girls and Panzer? Okay, but seriously, let me know in the comments which military moe anime you personally enjoy the most, and what it was about it that led you to enjoy it as much as you have. Is there anything else relating to the military moe genre as a whole that you'd like me to talk about? Or do you have any thoughts about what I've talked about here? Let me know in the comments below. While I might not get to respond to every comment, at least not in a timely manner, I can guarantee that I read each of them. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any future uploads. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support me and what I do here, my books and light novels are all available on Amazon. And you can get early access to videos, sneak peeks, and updates on my upcoming military moe manga and other projects by subscribing over on Patreon. I also offer channel memberships, which get you access to monthly members-only watch-along streams, in which we're currently watching the military space opera Space Battleship Yamato. That's all for now, so until next time.